The first experiences I can remember took place inside my great-grandparents' house. After my great-grandfather passed away, I would often stay with my great-grandmother. She lived completely alone. At night, we would hear knocks on the doors and walls, footsteps and whispering, pots and pans clanging. I was only 4 or 5 at the time. She assured me it was just my grandpa and told me not to be scared. Sometimes, she would even talk to him in a playful manner. I didn't fully understand because I was so young. She passed away a year or so later. After that, we moved into the house. I was around 8 years old and in 3rd grade. The house had been built in the 1930s and originally had only 2 bedrooms. I had one room to myself, while my little brother and sister, who are twins, shared the other. They were barely a year old, still in their cribs. My mom and her 3rd husband slept on a hideaway bed that folded out from the couch in the living room. My bedroom faced that living room, and my door opened directly toward the couch, so I could see them sleeping while lying in my bed at night. I had a large chifforobe closet in my room and a metal-framed bed. The first week we moved in, I began to experience strange things. I would be woken up by noises and see a shadow moving around in the living room. Scared, I would pull the covers over my head and try to go back to sleep. I regularly heard sounds coming from the chifforobe closet. One night, I was startled awake by bright lights. So bright that my first thought was that someone had parked a car in front of my window. But that was impossible. Another night, I saw a figure, best described as the opposite of a shadow person, standing over my mother. It was bathed in light. Some nights, I would hear scratching or tapping on my window. Then came the night my metal bed frame started shaking. At first slowly, then a little faster, then more erratically, as if some faint force was randomly rattling it. Shortly after that, I had my first experience with sleep paralysis. When I told my mother about it the next day, she admitted to experiencing the same thing. She described a shadowy figure wearing a hood, holding her down and draining her energy. We even made up a name for him, Hoodie. This was in 1997, before we had the internet, so we had no idea that this kind of thing was common. I have plenty more stories, especially from when I became a teenager and moved into a different room in the house. I'll have to make a part 2 though, because I'm out of time for now. I'm 100% sure there's a mimic in my dorm. I live in a 4-bedroom apartment-style dorm with 3 other roommates. 2 of us get along really well, but the 4th roommate barely talks to us. That's a whole other story. My roommate Jay, who lives next to me, has been hearing and seeing things. The first weird experience. About 2 months ago, I spent the weekend at my girlfriend's farmhouse about 3 hours away. That night, she was asleep, and I was just staring at the ceiling, about to drift off, when I heard a tiny, creepy voice whisper my girlfriend's name. My first thought? At least it's not talking to me. Then it said my name and followed up with, "I know you're awake." I was freaked out but convinced myself it was a hyper-realistic nightmare. I ignored it and forced myself to sleep. But things get worse. A few weeks later, Jay started seeing shadows. At first, I brushed it off. But then she told me she had started hearing my voice in the dorm, when I wasn't even home. The first time, she texted me, "Hey, you home?" I replied, "No, I've been in class all day." "Why?" "I just heard you knock on my door and call my name." I was nowhere near the dorm. Then today, she asked in our group chat who wasn't refilling the water filter. I responded, admitting it could have been me, and I'd pay more attention. More creepy stuff. Jay heard one of our mutual friends in the dorm and texted me asking if he was over. He wasn't. I've never even had that friend over. I hear weird noises, like things moving around, especially at night. The other night I couldn't sleep, so I went to the fridge for a snack. I heard someone pacing in the hall. When I went to check, no one was there. I hear random dragging noises and tapping, and I'm too paranoid to close my eyes for long. So, we think we have a mimic. How do we get rid of it? I've tried cleansing with music, but it doesn't work. I can't burn sage or incense in the dorm because of the fire alarms. Do I throw salt at it? I'm honestly not even scared anymore, just annoyed. I thought about just telling it to F off, but I feel like acknowledging it would just make things worse. Edit. Thanks for all your responses. I'm going to try to record it and see what's actually going on. For those saying I'm jumping to conclusions, I promise I've thought this through. If I believed this was just my brain playing tricks on me, I wouldn't have immediately gone to Reddit. Update. I took some advice and did some cleansing. Since I've been spending most nights at my girlfriend's place, I hadn't been in my room much. But yesterday, I went into all the spots that felt off, did a deep cleaning, and played some music. It actually helped. The eerie feeling is still there, but the energy feels more positive now. I also found my old evil eye necklace and started wearing it. For those asking for proof, I'll keep trying to get a recording. Update. Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that I'm heading back to my girlfriend's farmhouse tomorrow night, where all this creepy stuff started. If anything weird happens there again, I'll keep you posted. Also, since this post is getting really long, I may make a new post about everything. Stay tuned. I started this job a month ago as an overnight security officer in one of several buildings on a large campus. I signed an NDA, so I can't go into specifics that might identify my client. When I was training on first shift, I'll admit I was skeptical when I heard the stories. Things moving on their own, doors opening and closing, full-bodied apparitions in broad daylight. One of the older buildings even has a little girl who supposedly throws things. Typical ghost story stuff. I've always been sensitive to the paranormal, having experienced unexplainable things growing up. But during training, the buildings didn't feel threatening, so I brushed it off. Now that I've been working my regular shift for 2 weeks, things feel different. On my first night, I was checking a bathroom when I saw a shadow man lean out, glare at me, and slam the door shut. I froze. I didn't feel safe, but I told myself it was fine. I need this job. It's one of the few places in my area that pays a livable wage. So, I put up with the whispers, the bangs, the overwhelming sense of danger as I walked through the building. I convinced myself it was just an adjustment period, that we were just getting used to each other. That was before I learned the history of the land. Yesterday, I found out that my building was built on top of a historical graveyard, a burial site for enslaved people and their descendants. When the property was developed, the bodies were exhumed and moved across the street, but their original resting place is still beneath my feet every night when I go to work. While checking the emergency exits, which are enclosed in a stairwell, I made sure the door was secure and there were no hazards. But when I tried to re-enter the building, the door refused to budge. I could open it just enough to see no one on the other side. Then it would slam shut again. A few minutes later, I entered the loading area and was immediately confronted by a massive shadow figure. A hat man, at least 7 feet tall, just standing there watching me. I took a deep breath and kept walking. Strangely enough, tonight was probably the least threatened I've felt since starting night shifts. This happened in my apartment about 6 to 8 weeks ago. I've lived here for a few years now and have 3 pets, 2 cats and 1 dog. I live alone. I've never experienced anything like this before, which is why I'm here. One evening, I was sitting at my desk, which gives me a clear view of the back of my couch, where my pets usually lounge or nap. My dog was lying there, awake, when he suddenly sat up, turning his head toward the short hallway leading to my bedroom and bathroom. Then, out of nowhere, he started barking, loudly. His fur stood on end, and his focus was locked onto the hallway, as if he was staring directly at something. This wasn't his usual barking. I couldn't get him to stop no matter what I did. He barked for a solid 10 to 15 seconds. I brushed it off. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, one of my cats got up from the couch and wandered into either the bedroom or bathroom. He was gone for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then, out of nowhere, he bolted back into the living room, his fur completely puffed up. He spun around, staring toward the hallway, clearly alarmed. This wasn't normal cat zoomies. He just stood there, ears pinned back, staring at whatever he'd just run from. He stayed like that for about a minute, then suddenly snapped out of it and casually walked away. I had no idea what freaked him out, but again I brushed it off. The creepiest part? A few minutes later, my other cat, who had been hanging out with me at my computer, walked a few steps toward the corner of the room where my dog's food bowls are. Then he froze. His ears went back, his fur slightly puffed, and he started growling. Then came the hissing, directed straight at the empty corner of the room. I checked. Nothing was there. Maybe a mouse? Nope. No signs of anything. But my cat wasn't convinced. He kept crouching, circling the area with his eyes locked on the corner, growling and hissing. This went on for a full 10 minutes. Mind you, this cat is super chill. He never growls, let alone hisses. Now, I was starting to think something was up. The next evening, the same cat did the exact same thing. Same corner, same growling, same hissing, ears back, completely locked in on something unseen. This time, it lasted for about 15 minutes. Now, I was definitely freaked out. But trying to lighten the mood, I jokingly said out loud, if there's a ghost in here, please be chill. If you're cool, I don't mind having a roommate. And please be a hot ghost. I'd rather have a hot ghost. There were no weird sounds or strange noises. Nothing else happened. Some of my friends think I had a demon in my apartment. Others think it was just a regular ghost. Any thoughts? I still think about this off and on. What do you guys think? Paranormal? Just weird animal behavior? Something else?